Good afternoon, and welcome back to another fantastic kind of pre-experience insight event, all for you fantastic members of ours who are going to be joining us for Internship Experience UK 2021. And this time we're running a fantastic insight event all around building your dream network. So unique to this year, we put on some additional insight events to really help you get set up to make the most of the internship experiences or experience that you're taking part in this year. So hopefully you're looking forward to these experiences, and a massive well done for securing your place. As I mentioned, today we're going to be focusing all on networking. So one of the key skills that we know still makes people that little bit nervous. If you've taken a moment to look at the agenda or looked at the kind of general agenda for the program, this year's program, you'll know that there are even more networking opportunities as part of Internship Experience UK 2021. And this event is going to be all around making sure you know how to take advantage of all of them. So we have a really fantastic speaker with us who I'll introduce in just a moment, who you'll be able to really pick her brains and all of her networking expertise to help you make the most of the experiences. So before I introduce our fantastic speaker, just a quick hello from myself. My name's Shelley. Hopefully some of you will recognize me. I send you lots of emails now and again on the kind of opportunities to help you build your skills. I work really closely with kind of your career services and societies and lots of our kind of student networks to ensure that you guys can access the best support for your career before, during, and beyond university. I've just noticed that my slides aren't quite sharing. Hopefully they should be sharing now. Fantastic. So yes, you can see on the screen now who our fantastic speaker is as well. So I'm really excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Kelly Hoey, who is an absolute guru when it comes to networking strategically and really building your dream network that will help boost your career and excel forward. So if you want to know how to build your dream career and excel your career, Kelly is your person. So I'll let Kelly introduce herself and some of the work that she's been doing.
Oh, it's so good to be here with the Bright Network again. And thank you so much for having me back. It was so much fun last year, even getting up early to meet everybody. So yes, I'm Kelly Hoey, author of the book, Build Your Dream Network. Being an author is not my first career. I have managed to, I would say, network my way from being a corporate attorney in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to an attorney in New York City, to law firm management, law firm marketing, the first president of a global business network for women, co-founder of a startup accelerator, angel investor, interim CMO of emerging tech company. And then finally I said, you know, what's the common thread here? How have I managed to go from A to B? How did I, arrive in New York knowing 5 people and now have, all this other stuff going on? And it's because of networks and relationships and some of the lessons I learned very early on in my career. So you're building relationships, and what we're really going to talk about is strategies that are going to help you build the networks you need to last, not a network that is sort of one and done in the transaction. I just want to say, before we dive into some of the materials, and we've got some really concrete ideas on things you should be doing during the internship experience this year, both before, during, and after, to help you build your network. But I just wanted to say, one of the things is, this is the chance, this internship experience is the chance for you to start building, and diversifying your career network. And I really want to stress that start, and we're going to get into it, but this is the start of a journey of meeting new people and forming relationships that will be mentors, that may be people who employ you, they may be people who are colleagues, they may be people who just simply support your career. One of the attendees last year reached out to me and she said, yeah, one of the things I looked at differently because of listening to your presentation, Kelly, and then doing the internship experience, she said, I found some like-minded people and we share ideas and opportunities and things we think of our interest, because we all know we are interested in a legal career and doing similar work, but we can share things and help all of our careers. And that's the kind of magic you want to start doing. And I just want to point out, like, for many of you, there may be a network gap that you have, and this is through no fault of your own. This might be life, this might be school, this might be geography, this might be socioeconomic. And why the internship experience is so great, and why I am such a ardent fan of it and coming back every year to support it, is that this experience helps you equalize your networks, and for some of us, step over that network gap that we have, because what you're going to encounter is not just people like me speaking, it's your peers. And your peer network, and those who attended, if you were an internship experience participant last year, you'll know I harped on about this. Your most important network right now is your peer network, because they are going through the same experience. They are participating in programs like this. They're going on interviews. They can share what they're finding in the job market, and that is far more relevant in many cases than the career advice in terms of a job search or where you might find a job or opportunity that you'll hear from other people like with more gray hair. So I'm going to stop there, Shelley, and let you tell everybody what we got planned for them over the next 45 minutes or so.
Fantastic. And I think people are already probably very excited, if they weren't already, from that brief introduction, because there's just so much for us to discuss today. And you've already given some tidbits of nuggets of information there, which I think we can unpack in the next few moments. But yeah, to not slow that down any further, I'm going to run through quickly what the agenda is for today. So I'm going to give a quick update on Internship Experience UK. So for those of you who are really kind of getting started, some of you might be on the professional services and consulting stream next week, or technology, or maybe you're the week after. Whatever it is that you are signing up to or kind of taking part in, we'll give you a bit of an update so you know what to expect over the coming weeks. And then we're going to dive straight into networking. So really understanding from Kelly's expertise on how you can make the most of all the different networking opportunities you have, both before, during, and after Internship Experience UK. And then before wrapping up with a few final questions and general thoughts that you have around kind of networking in general and putting your best foot forward. Quickly, before I do jump into the update, just some housekeeping. We want today to be really interactive, so please do feel free to use the live chat to send in any of your questions. If you find the live chat is distracting you in any ways from listening in, you can use the kind of 3 bubbles in the top corner just to turn it off until you're ready to ask a question.
Shelley, I seem to have lost you there for a second.
Oh, am I back?
You're back now.
Oh, fantastic.
Mercury is spinning out of retrograde today, so,
That's what it is. That's what it is. Hopefully nothing else goes wrong today. But yes, just to reiterate, so to keep things nice and clear for everyone, we'll be removing any posts that aren't kind of Q&A related. So do just keep the live chat really focused on any questions you have for Kelly, and we'll be making sure to get those across throughout the session. But that's enough of that. So before we dive into the top tips, a very quick update on Internship Experience UK. So as we say, the live experiences kick off from next week, and we're so excited to kind of get that started and welcome you all onto the first couple of streams for this year. In terms of things to help you start getting prepared beyond kind of this session, do take a look through your pre-experience pack, which you should be receiving you should have received or be receiving shortly. Make sure to get yourself on the LinkedIn groups as well. So these will be a real kind of opportunity for you, like Kelly said, to really connect with your peers. And those are some of the really important elements of your network is peer-to-peer networking. So thinking about who you can connect with in those LinkedIn groups who will be doing the same streams as yourself, and who you can kind of get some insights from even before you've even got onto the streams. The full agendas for each of your experiences will be released around a week before the experience. So for professional services and technology, you should have started to have some of those come through, but you'll receive everything that you need for your stream by the Thursday or Friday before your experience. So don't worry if you haven't received everything by kind of the end of the week, you'll get that before the week wraps up, so that on the Monday or Tuesday, when you're due to start your experience, you'll be ready with everything that you need. Other than that, there's absolutely nothing to prepare. So just sit back, obviously enjoy the session, enjoy the break from exams. If any of you still doing exams, thank you for taking a break to join us for today. And then, we'll dive straight into the top tips from Kelly. So to kick off the discussion, Kelly, I know one of the key questions that are coming through from a lot of our kind of members around kind of getting set up for Internship Experience UK is, what can I be doing to really build those connections before my experience starts? So is there anything I need to be doing to get started and to put myself on the best foot before I've even stepped into the virtual program?
Such a good question, because you network while you sleep in our digital age. And sort of two thoughts that come to mind is, one, I know this question is, what should I be doing to build connections before? One of the things I like to remind people is, you have a network already. You have classmates, you have friends, you have family, you maybe have people you used to work with, you have professors, maybe teaching assistants, all those kinds of things. That's part of your network. And the thing you should be doing is thinking, right, how do I bring them into this continuing career journey of mine? So keep that in mind. So one of the first things, given that first impressions are often made online, the very first thing I would do to start building your connections before the experience starts is go over into an incognito mode on Google and search your name. What comes up? It's probably going to be your LinkedIn profile, or go and look at your LinkedIn profile, because we've got the LinkedIn groups, which is another way that you can start building your connections online. But you don't want to start, chatting with people and having them look you up and you've got an incomplete profile. So go and look at your profile from that public view, and does it portray the person that you would want to be the peer, like in a peer group with? Would it want it to say that, yes, I'm the type of person you want to put your trust and your reputation, you want to align it with mine? Or, some of these potential employers for your career who are also devoting their time and their expertise and participating in the internship experience. You don't want them looking at your profile and saying, boy, they asked an interesting question during the internship experience, but that doesn't align with what this profile says. So go and update your social profiles. I recognize that we use some social profiles with our really closest friends, like, the equivalent of your private conversations that you'd have just hanging out with your mates. Change privacy settings on those ones. Not everyone needs to know every aspect of your life. And so if you've been using Instagram or TikTok or whatever in a way that is, kind of you and your mates hanging out, change the profile settings, because guess what? Other people don't need to see that. And that's, it's the view I used to take when I was manager of professional development for a global law firm. And the first job I'd have my summer intern do was Google all the incoming associates, and then come to me if there was anything that looked problematic, so to speak, so that I could have a discussion with the associate or the incoming associate before, someone with less magnanimous views saw these things, is the best way to put it. So update your social profiles. Number one thing I would do. The next thing is share that you're participating in this internship experience. I've already mentioned you already have a network. They should be part of this career journey with you. You'll also find other peers, right? Start to find people who did this before. Maybe some of your friends did this and they didn't tell you. So now you've got another thing to talk to them about if they see these posts and you share that you are going to participate in this. This is also sort of thing that, where you've had mentors, be it, I don't know, someone you've met because of going to school, someone provided a reference letter, maybe it's a former employer, maybe it's a professor, and they sort of say, hey, stay in touch, let me know what you're doing. That you are participating in this internship experience is a really great way to reach out to someone, to stay in touch and not ask them for anything. And that's the kind of thing that builds bonds. So that is something else I would do. Another thing I would do before this all starts is...
Just to interject there very quickly, Kelly, because I think you made a really good point there about kind of looking at who potentially did it last year. And I think, I know many people might have done it last year who are taking part of the brand new streams this year. So I think it's really important for them to be also, like you say, posting about it. If you did it last year, thinking about what is it that you're looking forward to this year? What are you looking to build upon? Because I think employers will really like to, if you're looking at even peers as well, people just generally would like to hear what you learned last year and how you're looking to develop on those skills further. So it's just something that came out of what you were saying there that I think is really valuable for those members who are kind of coming back to do a new stream this year.
Oh yeah, it's not just, I mean, you're absolutely right. It would really impress an employer that you're dedicating this to your career and your professional development, but also to other people to say, why am I doing this again? And I know I joked last year when I was talking to the Bright Network team and hearing about all the work that went into developing this internship experience. And I frankly thought to myself, I don't know if I would pass. Easy assignments, and I'm going to get to that, later in terms of how you talk, but I think you should be saying that you're participating in this. You should be sharing this information for people who may not know about it. If you participated last year, say why you're devoting time to this and why you have found it meaningful and valuable, to your studies and your career and stuff now. Here's some other things that I would do. Think about your video setup and your workspace setup that you're going to have during the internship experience. Because guess what? Survey says after a year on Zoom, we judge people based on the audio quality and the video quality. And, you're participating in these things. And if there's chances that you're going to be able to turn your camera on, you want that setup to be the best that it can be. So, kind of test where you're going to do this so that you're ready to go next week when the internship experience starts. One of the things I would not do, I'm taking a big breath on this one, Shelly, is don't post in the chat or in the LinkedIn groups, something along the lines of, hey, everybody, let's connect with me on LinkedIn. And then you put your LinkedIn URL. Please don't do that. And here's why. Well, other than I think it's kind of obnoxious, which maybe is not enough of a reason to not do it. But let me explain it this way. I think of networking online no differently than networking in person. Because well before 2020, we were making and had the ability to expand our networks and make meaningful digital first connections. If we treated digital as not like this lesser secondary kind of smarmy or marketing networking experience, as so many people my age and older would think, but to be able to say, no, I can make real human relationships if I show up as a human being. And I can tell you right now, at no networking event in my life have the first words out of my mouth been to someone, here's my LinkedIn URL, let's connect. Never. You talk to people, you find out what they're all about, you see if there's mutual interest. You see if there's things that like mutual interest in the same, that you have similar interests and you're intrigued by what they do. Then you might go to them and you might connect. You may make a request to connect with them based on the conversations you've been having or things that you've seen. Oh, you were studying, the same subject as me, but a different uni, really like to explore this more with you. Let's connect. But you wouldn't walk up to someone and say, hey, here's my LinkedIn URL, let's connect. No one does that. So treat online as you would real life, because it is real life, and don't just go and drop your LinkedIn URL and asking people to connect. So I'll get off my, Hyde Park Corner soapbox on that one for a second, but it does come back later. All right, so.
I think that's such a good point to flag, because I think you do get that kind of, it almost is that kind of panicked feeling like, oh, how do I connect? Let me just drop my LinkedIn URL and hope for the best. But like you say, that's not the way. I guess you would never kind of just throw your CV out into the wind and just hope someone catches it. You really want to think about who you're applying to and who you're giving people this information about yourself and who you're reaching out to and who you're connecting with.
Right. But even if you think about the LinkedIn groups right now for the internship experience and people being online right now, I mean, right now this is like we're in a lecture hall and, you know, they're watching the two of us on stage talking, and those LinkedIn groups is kind of, you know, think about being at a big conference. You know, I sort of have visions of when I went to Orlando, Florida for the Grace Hopper Big Women in Tech conference, and there was a lot of kind of standing and milling in the hallways before a session started, which is what your LinkedIn groups are, right? If we think, I'm going to say think in 3D of what this is. So those LinkedIn groups that the internship experience is set up, or the Bright Network is set up for the internship experience, it's kind of like you're milling in the hallway, waiting for the organizers to open the doors and saying, all right, the session's going to begin, come on in, right? So while you're milling in that hallway, like I said, I have never walked up to a complete stranger standing in line and said, here's my LinkedIn URL. I may say to them, what brings you here? How did you hear about this event? Why are you attending this track of the internship experience? Are you planning to, you know, you said professional services and technology. Are you planning to go to law school? Or are you thinking about doing, you know, consulting at a, you know, wherever, right? A McKinsey or, you know, a PwC, like, you know, like you'd have that conversation. So think about those LinkedIn groups in that human way and be human first. Don't go after these stupidity, like absolute stupidity of seeking social media metrics of let's get a bunch of LinkedIn connections. You want quality, and quality starts with a conversation, not a URL.
Absolutely. And that actually leads on to one of the questions that came through on the live chat. So thanks for who sent this through. Do you have any tips on how we can stand out in our kind of LinkedIn posts and when sharing about kind of going on to this experience? Any advice about kind of building that kind of what to post and what to say to those in those posts that they're creating?
Right. Like right now, like here's how you stand out by being of service to your network. Right. And that's what you think. Can I post information that is helpful to others and may provide them with information that they don't have? I mean, I received a very lovely email, and I will forward it to Shelley to prove it, that I'm not just making stuff up. A lovely email from someone who participated in a Women in Tech online conference. And this student mentioned in the Q&A for this completely different event that she was a student and she was wondering about, you know, kind of networking and things that she should be doing for her career, and did I have any suggestions? And I suggested to her that she look into the Bright Network and she look into the internship experience. And I got this lovely note to say, you know, thank you. I wouldn't have found this internship if you hadn't mentioned it at this completely other event. So let's go back to where I started. All of you already have networks. You may be surrounded by people who have no idea about the internship experience. So you're of service to them if you share, this is what I'm doing. These are the internships I've signed up for because my career interest is X or Y, or I'm really interested in exploring, or I hadn't thought about going into a tech job and really hoping that this internship will open my eyes to what those possibilities are before I rule them out as, you know, a career option. You know, put your reasons in there and then share the URL where people can sign up. So you're helping your network, people discover the internship experience. You're also signaling to people who already know you, who may be in an opportunity to refer other internships or job openings. You're signaling to them the type of person you are and what you're committed to doing for your own career. Because when we think about the skill sets people look for, I mean, the things people look for is like resilience and adaptability. You know, people who are invested in their own professional development, people who, you know, we say self-starter, signing up and doing these internship experience and applying that information, that's self-starter to me. So there's a multiple audiences you can help, but just think of your posts of how can I be of service and share information that might be helpful for somebody else.
Absolutely. And another question that came through, which I think you sort of pre-answered there in a way, but would you say it's a disadvantage if you don't have a very LinkedIn presence? So I suppose a disadvantage in terms of going into the experience without that active LinkedIn presence.
I mean, you just need to beef it up now because you're going to be meeting so many people. So when you say, I don't care if you have 2 followers, 2 connections on LinkedIn or 200, that part of this is irrelevant to me. What is relevant to me is that you have a full profile and that you share what you've done in terms of studying. Maybe you've done some work study, maybe you've been involved in either a participant or as an attendee, as a leader in various societies. You should put that on. If there's projects or things, if you jump over the Bright Network, they have detailed program I did there on your LinkedIn profile. So don't worry about the number of connections you have. Worry about, or think about, and spend some time on creating a full profile so all the people you're starting to meet as of today find the person that you truly are, and you're not leaving kind of this gap of like, well, they seem to ask some interesting questions during the Q&A, and then I went to their LinkedIn profile and they look kind of odd. Like, flesh it out, make sure it accurately reflects who you are.
I think that links in quite really well into kind of the whole personal branding element as well. It's like from any angle that they experience your personal brand from, what do you want them to see? And I think that loops in so well, because this disjointed personal brand, if they're meeting one person through Internship Experience UK and then suddenly a completely different account or someone that looks completely different on LinkedIn, that disparity is going to put doubt in people's minds. So yeah, I think really valuable.
And you're absolutely hitting on it, Shelley. I mean, people call it personal branding. It's like your network tells the world who you are.
Yeah.
Because your network is like, oh, Shelley's really great, you need to work with her. And someone goes and looks at a LinkedIn profile and there's a little blue, little white circle instead of a head because she hasn't put a headshot on there, and it hasn't been updated in 4 years. It's like, boy, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe Shelley's too busy to keep up her profile, but they told me she had great time management skills, and that there's a disconnect. And when people talk about branding, when you think about branding from like that corporate sense, that's why brand marketers do like audience Q&A, and they do that ethnographic research, because a brand isn't what a brand says it is, it's what its buyers say it is.
Yeah.
And the meaning we get it from. So you've got to think, wow, if I want to be trustworthy, or if I say to people that I'm, I'm a great mentor and all this, it's because your network says it is, not because you've just decided to, anoint yourself as your new personal brand. So really think about that to make sure. And this is where I really think that you need your digital networking toolkit to work with your analog networking toolkit, and make sure those things are supporting and enhancing each other.
Absolutely. So I think that brings us nicely to kind of question 2, or that kind of middle section of the discussion. So thinking about during the experiences.
Yep.
Now this is just one example of the questions that have been coming through. So what questions should I be asking firms and graduates during the experience? But I guess that just breaks out to a wider question on how do I network while I'm there across the 3 days, connecting with firms, connecting with graduates from these companies, connecting with other peers on the cohort. How do I make the most of my time across those 3 days?
Okay, so here's what I would do. First off, block your calendar, and that you're, to indicate to the world that you're participating in this. Put an out of office or a vacation responder on your email that explains that for the next 3 days, I am participating in the Bright Network internship experience. I will not be able to respond to emails until, whatever. I've gotten a lovely email from someone today, and on her email signature lines, told everybody when she looks at email, I look at email once a day, Monday through Thursday, and otherwise respond within 48 hours. I was like, that's beautiful, because you're signaling to the world, what you're up to and what you're doing and why you may not be responsive. And they may be like, wow, I was emailing to, I don't know, catch up, and I didn't know that this internship experience existed. Or it could be a potential employer going, oh, this is cool that they're doing this. And then they can manage their expectations of when they want to talk to you. It also gets into, your participation in the internship experience, where you really need to be single-minded focus on this. So I'd also say with your mobile phone, with your devices, turn off notification and be really present. If there's times that you're going to be on camera on Zoom, turn off the self view. It actually really messes up with our brains. Because think about it. When you're at a networking event, I mean, unless you're at a networking event in like the Palace of Versailles, or maybe a fun house of mirrors kind of thing, you're never looking at yourself when you're networking. You're never looking at yourself when you're sitting in a classroom or a lecture hall. So it really messes up with our brains to see ourselves. So turn off the self view for your mental health. Do that, do that, do that. I touched on this before, Shelley. It was like, think in 3D when you walk into the internship experience. And by that, I mean, imagine you're walking into a lecture hall. And that means you're walking into that lecture hall and you might have the chat function available to you to use. That's a good way to say good morning to people. Like if you walked into a lecture hall and you sat down in your seat and there was a couple other people in the room, why don't you assume they're sitting next to you? Why don't you say, hey, good morning, everybody. I'm so-and-so, and I'm from XYZ University and looking to go into whatever. I'm in pre-law, or I am studying, or I'm hoping to do. Instead of jumping on and putting in your LinkedIn URL, which I've already know I've kind of hopefully beaten that, dead horse on networking horse to death on that one. But think about, well, why can't I use the chat as I would in a human experience? So that's another way. Why can't you be the first person to start this? Say who you are. Say where you have gone to school. You could say, hey, anyone else seeking to do fill in the blank area of law or professional services or technology, depending on the internship experience that you're doing. Why not share that and see who else is there? So that's one thing I would do. And I'm kind of pausing. I suggest this because I experienced this with another networking group, a global networking group for creatives called Creative Mornings. And they bring that ethos of introducing themselves and saying hello that they do in in-person events. They bring that to the online experience. And it was an absolutely beautiful thing to watch, where people say, hey, good morning, this is so-and-so. I'm a digital designer based in San Diego, or whatever it was. So that when other people came up with questions, all of a sudden they were using the chat to say, oh, you're wondering, and this truly happened, you're wondering, you're new and you're wondering how to network in San Diego? I'm in San Diego. Here, I can help you. Like, reach out to me. And it was real human connection, even though we were doing it in a chat. So use the chat that way. The big thing I'd say during the internship experience, and I'm going to send it to Shelley so she knows I'm not making things up. I have proof. I have receipts, Shelley. And I have a participant from last year who said, this is what she did. And this is my advice during the internship experience in terms of thinking about how you connect with the firms and the graduates, and to get to the questions that you want to ask them, to think, oh gosh, how am I going to connect? Because there's no one size fits all script to saying, here's the 3 questions to ask and people will think you're really smart. That does not exist. If someone tells you it does, I'm going to tell you they're lying. Anyway, here's the thing. Take notes and take notice. I want you to take detailed notes of what you're learning and who is saying and asking things. I wanted you to take notice of the things that are piquing your interest and people who are asking the same questions. Write down their name. Write down the note that they asked about. And those notes and taking notice who is making these comments, that is going to give you I want to say the fuel for the questions that you should be asking. So that's how you're going to figure out what to ask. Take notes and take notice. And I know we're going to get into the networking you do afterwards, but by taking notes and taking notice, you'll come up with questions that you want to have asked. And if they don't get answered during the immediate internship experience, that's okay. And we're going to get to that in a minute. One other thing I would suggest when you ask a question, particularly if you're coming off mute or coming on camera, or if it's just being read by someone to say, oh, we have a question from the audience. Say who you are. Hi, I'm Kelly Hoey. Say what you do. Like, I'm a student at. I'm Kelly Hoey. I'm a graduate of the University of Victoria, as well as the University of British Columbia Law School. My question is, use that format. It works beautifully whether you are typing the question in, or if you're asking it when you come off you mute with a microphone, or if you were at a live event and you went up to the microphone. And why I say that, it very clearly puts out to everybody who you are, right? What your interests are, and it gives you the chance to make more connections than if you get up to the microphone and just ask your question, or you get up to the microphone and you do a lot of, oh, it's really great to be here, and thanks so much. And it's like, where's the question? And maybe that's the New Yorker and me coming out, Shelley, after being a nice Canadian for most of my life. But say who you are, what you studied, what your career interest is, and then what your question. And that will help you make more connections than just asking the question itself.
Yeah. I think what that really does nicely as well, and I think it's a fantastic tip there, because I think even just the way it's premised is like saying, because the questions that you're asking hopefully are based off of your notes and what you've taken notice of, it's giving that person who's receiving the question the impression that this is a person that takes note of what I've said and takes notice and actually utilizes that to formulate questions and isn't just asking me questions for the sake of saying a question. And it comes across with an air of confidence as well, which I think really does make a strong impression to anyone looking through the chat, instead of just saying a kind of half-written comment / question on the chat. You've actually taken the time to type that out, consider it, and really submit a well-considered thought. So I guess, again, it comes back to your whole personal branding. It just, again, reiterates, this is who I am, this is how my brain works, and this is how I come across. So I think that's invaluable when it comes to standing out in such a busy kind of, what can be kind of quite a busy chat at times, because if everyone's asking different questions, that's how you make yourself stand out from that crowd, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And you think about the moderators on the questions, and you're seeing all this stuff, and then you see this very considerate, thoughtful question. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I was moderating, that's the question I'd go for, to say, oh, look, we have someone who's got this question. It's also, like I was going to say, that hit the nail on the head, the impression of confidence, but it's also the impression of sincerity. Mm-hmm. When you think about networking, you're asking someone who trust you and give you their time. And the difference between someone who sort of has put some thought into it versus someone who's like, oh, I've got a roster of questions that I can just ask anyone. You know, the difference when I've had people reach out to me saying, I'm really interested in your career, can we talk? Like, what part of my career? Are you interested when I did bankruptcy law in Toronto? Are you interested when I did commercial mortgage-backed securities? Are you interested when I started a startup, accelerator? Like, what part of it is interesting? I don't know, tell me. And the difference when someone has something very specific, like, how did you get that job, Kelly? Like, how did you become global president of a business network for women? How did that happen? Like, now I know someone's actually put some thought into it. And there's a difference in the investment and and I'm just saying this as me, and it's probably more of a universal experience for the type of people you may want to talk to at this point in your career. Kind of doing that good stalking on the internet, that sort of changes, how and where we engage. The difference between saying to someone, I've talked about my career in this podcast, here's the episode, versus saying to someone, "Ooh, yeah, there's a few places I've talked about that, but I'd be happy to chat with you for 15 minutes to tell you how it really happened." Different thing altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing I would potentially add to that as well, you mentioned around when you were saying that that element of coming across with a question that's really specific and considered and shows that you've done your research. I think bringing it back to that human point you made earlier on, and being a human first, especially in networking context. I think it's remembering that the other person also, as much as networking might make you feel uncomfortable or feel out of depth, it does also sometimes with the other person. So having that considered and direct question actually helps them a little bit, because I know I've had situations where people have reached out to me and said, "Oh, I'd love to talk to you about what you're doing at Bright Network or your career." And I feel the same way, like how you just said, like which part, like, what do you mean? And it does almost give you that kind of focus to be like, okay, so they need help in this area. This is how I can bring my best tips, and it will give you the best insights that you're looking for anyway, if you're a bit more specific and if you really hone into a particular part that interests you. So I think
we started this conversation by talking about your LinkedIn profile and how you I would say you network your ambitions and build your brand with other people. I mean, we put information out on the interwebs because we want people to read it. So don't think it's weird to reach out to someone to say you've looked at their profile or listened to their podcast or, watched another webinar they did or, whatever. It's not creepy stalking on the internet. People put out blogs and do this information because they want people to read it. So read it, digest it, think about it, and ask a smarter question based on what you've learned.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So moving into the kind of final element of our discussion, and do kind of keep coming some of those questions from the chat. It's fantastic to have your thoughts, the thoughts from the kind of those of you tuning in, listening in as well. So thinking about after the experience now, so you've kind of been part of it, you've gained all the skills and insights, you've got your certificate, and now you're looking at the next steps going forward. How do you continue to maintain and develop those connections after the experience so that you can really utilize them to keep pushing your career forward? Because yes, you've got these skills, yes, you've got the certificate, but what do you do with them then to get people to actually even know that you've got them or notice them or kind of utilize them?
Right. Well, this is again, post the takeaways on the information you learned and what was helpful and what you'll be applying. And I want to stress this. I really want you to, whether it's your posts or where you update your social profiles, particularly on LinkedIn, to describe the internship experience. Please do not just cut and paste. As much as I love the Bright Network and their marketing copy, please do not just cut and paste that, because you're missing out on showing people what you did and learned. So really think about, all right, this is what the internship offered, and this is what I actually did. And really describe that, in your profile, and share posts in terms of what you found was useful. And then you can do that once, but it's also, as you learn more things or as you apply these skills, that's a great way again to do a new post or update a former post, particularly again on LinkedIn, to share what you're doing with these skills that you've learned, knowing that yes, there's the internship experience that's live, but other people are going to be able to do it on demand. So it's encouraging to them to go off and, if they can't participate in the live ones, to do the other ones, because based on what it is that you're learning. You're going to have these LinkedIn groups. I should say, Shelley, you're going to have to tell everybody what's the hashtag, because you're going to be able to find people through those hashtags. All those notes, remember I told you to take notes and take notice? There's your roadmap, right? For how you start reaching out to people. This is not a one and done. It takes time to make relationships, and you want to make relationships that last a lifetime. So you could decide after the internship experience, you could be saying, oh my Lord, I've got 30 people to follow up with. Great, one a day, right? You could set some Google alerts on some of the speakers. You can, and I think we've got a handout, that checklist that I did for the Bright Network one of the suggestions on there, set a Google alert on some of these speakers, set a Google alerts on some of the companies that you're interested in working for. A lot of these companies are doing their own webinars and things. Go and sign up for those. Look at this as a journey, not like, oh, I meet them once, I ask one perfect question, and then suddenly, rainbows and unicorn and magic networking glitter falls down. It's not the way it works. It's incremental acts over time, building up a fuller, bigger profile of your character. Because as I said, networking is built on trust and time, right? So time is about, are you showing up consistently? Are you sharing information? Are you putting in the time to get to know other people? And that trust of, are you doing the things that you said you were going to do? So that's some of the things I would do. The follow-up one is a really big one. So there may be people you asked a question to and the speaker answers it and says, that's a great question. If you've got more follow-up on this, let me know. Well, they've just opened the door for you to reach out. And it doesn't have to happen a week after the internship experience. It can happen a month or two after. And you could say, I'm the student who asked this question. You said to follow up. I've been doing this research. I've been doing this reading. And here's the follow-up question I have for you. Or I signed up for your webinar on X and I watched it and I really appreciated the point you made on whatever it was. And I'm also thinking about what you said in the internship experience. Can you tell me how these two concepts work together? I mean, if I was someone doing a presentation and someone reached out to me with that kind of detail, I'd be like making my day. I'd be like, I want to talk to them. They're really thinking this through. So there's a long timeline. And so that's why, just kind of give it the patience and the time to unfold as it should unfold, rather than trying to force a connection or a relationship in an artificial timeline.
Absolutely. One of the questions that has come through was around kind of those students and graduates who are doing multiple of these experiences. So some of them will be doing one in the first week, some will be doing one in the last week, or doing on demand. Is it overkill to be kind of doing a roundup after every single experience? Do you have any tips around that?
No, I think some people went to great lengths, last year, as I remember, they did some PowerPoints, they did visuals. One person did like a sketch note I remember with my presentation, they sent it to me. I absolutely loved it. But I think this is where you could say, here's why I'm doing, hey, if you're following along, you'll know this is my second Bright Network, internship experience. Here's why I have chosen to make this investment in my professional education. It could be like, oh, I heard about these from last year for a friend. They got great value out of it. And I'm still at the point in my career that I don't know what I want to do with my degree. So I'm really exploring these options before, making applications for formal work study or, internships or apprenticeships or whatever it may be. So explain to people why you're doing multiple ones. That, like I said, I think you're being helpful to others, and your network, sharing with your network what it is that you're seeking to do. And you're showing potential employers, the stuff you're made of, which I think is fantastic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another question that came through that I think is quite interesting, actually. What are the differences between networking and following up with, say, the employers and speakers that you've met on the program, but then also the peers that you've met, so those who have taken part in the program too, alongside of you? What's the differences in how you follow up to each of them? And I guess the benefits of doing both.
Right. Yeah, you definitely want to do both, because following up with a potential employer or one of the speakers might get you a nice answer. They might give you the answer you need, and that's kind of nice. And maybe they'll, depending on who they are, they may have employment opportunities, but they may just say, oh, be sure to apply, let me know if you apply through our online portal for one of our programs in the future. So they may give you useful information and be helpful, but they may not be instrumental. and helping you move your career dial in terms of actually landing something. That's where your peers come in. And while all of you are on, your own career hunt, your own job hunt, that doesn't mean you can't be cooperative to each other, because who actually an employer hires is outside of your control. So that's why sharing information with each other is really useful. So you can use the internship experience to start to find the like-minded peers who have diverse and different networks than yours, but have similar career interests, because you all may be bringing different and seeing different information, disparate information, because of your diverse networks that you can bring to the table to help each other, things you may not have heard of. Oh, hey, I saw this career, this internship opportunity with this, community group that is doing whatever. It might be more up your alley than mine, because they're really focusing on early, education, and I'm really focused on, teenage education, like whatever. You take your own example. So find peers and share those experiences. Share those experiences of like, God, because I'm truly feeling for folks in the job interview process right now, having to do recorded video interviews, that you're talking to the camera like I am right now, which can be kind of weird. And how you do those effectively, or maybe you're going to do a video interview and you want someone to practice with you so they can test the setup so that they don't see. God, there was some guy, I remember this early in COVID, and he was like a journalist, and he was doing his, doing his best journalist interview on television, and he clearly pulled out a suit. At least he had a jacket and a tie and the shirt on. Who knows, maybe pajama bottoms on the bottom. But he had his setup with his bed and dirty laundry piled behind him. Like if a friend had just said to him, yo, dude, the suit looks great, but you might want to turn the camera a different angle, because looking at your unmade bed and dirty laundry, people really don't care what's going to come out of your mouth. All they're going to be fixated on, like I am, is the dirty laundry. So this is where your peers come in handy. They could help you say, right, they're probably, oh, I interviewed at that consulting firm, or that professional service firm, or that tech company too, or my friend did. Here's the questions they ask in the interview. That's why you want to engage with your peers, because they can give you relevant, instrumental, like actionable advice that is pertinent to the job market right now, versus someone who interviewed even 2 years ago. Completely different situation.
Absolutely. No, that's really, really important to remember how powerful it is to connect with those people who are kind of even in the same life stage as you, or in the same kind of boat. Because even if you think, well, they're just looking for the same answers as me, I think that's where people's minds tend to go. But actually, there's things that you've experienced, whether it be through an application or interview, that it's just that insider knowledge that you're never going to get anywhere else. But these people going through this process with you will have those tips and insights that you can also benefit from, and vice versa. So I think it's really important. And brings the next question in quite nicely, which is when you talk about maintaining connections without asking for anything in return, so this shared kind of beneficial connection, what do you talk to them about? Now, I know that you mentioned earlier, Kelly, about just keeping up to date with things that are happening with this kind of speakers and with those people, and I guess prompting, that helps you to prompt something that you might want to reach out to them about, say if they had a new project that they just launched or something they were working on. But is there any other examples that you have of ways to kind of keep that conversation flowing and keep reaching out to them about things without asking for anything in return?
Right. Well, this is a great time to remind people that you network not only with your mouth, you network with your eyes and your ears. So watch and see what's going on with other people. I mean, one way to stay in touch with someone is, I don't know, let's say say it's Shelly. You're like, I want to stay in touch with her. If you saw that Shelly made a post on LinkedIn that talked about the next round of applications for the internship experience, you could comment on her post. You could repost her post on LinkedIn to say, hey, I want everyone to be sure to see Shelly, because you're now networking with Shelly because you're helping her out. Or you could, because you've taken notice and you're seeing things that people are interested in, you might see that they've posted a question that you could send them the answer to. Or you might see, I don't know, you might say, wow, there seems to be posting a lot about, what did I listen to today on the BBC? Oh, I know. I'm going to say the rainforest expansion and what's going on in Gabon. And you might say that someone is really interested in preserving wetlands or whatever. And you could say, wow, or they're interested in forestation. And you're like, did you see this piece on, you know, the country of Gabon being given this, you know, first of multiple, you know, kind of reward payments for preserving their rainforest. This was a really interesting and in-depth conversation. You know, by the way, their minister responsible for this has got quite the portfolio. Just go and listen to the BBC piece. So that's a way of networking. Sending a birthday card is networking. Acknowledging somebody else's promotion is networking. You know, sending a mentor an update to say, wow, you know, I just wanted to let you know, you know, during the internship experience, I was reminded of some advice you gave me before I headed off to uni. And I just wanted to let you know that I still use and appreciate that advice. You may not have talked to that mentor in 2 or 3 years, but just sending that little message, you know, that's networking and that's rebuilding that bond. So use your eyes and your ears as much as your mouth when you're networking. There's really the bottom line, Shelley.
I love that. And that is literally the perfect quote to finish up on today as well. I couldn't have asked for a better one, and I knew it would come definitely from this session as well. But thank you so much, Kelly, for all those different insights. And I think it's really, well, hopefully you guys found it as helpful as I found it, breaking it down kind of with the before, during, and after. And hopefully now what you guys can walk away with is a bit of a blueprint in terms of what you can do across the next kind of few weeks and when you're doing your internship experience to really make sure that you're maximizing the experience for your career. And as Kelly mentioned, in the follow-up, we'll be sending you through kind of the checklist that she's so kindly put together for us, which really breaks down all of these kind of top tips that she's talked through and gives you a bit of a checklist to really go through and think, am I doing each of these things to really maximize my network and create that kind of those connections that will work for me in my career in the future. So that's going to be invaluable going forward and even beyond Internship Experience UK as well. So definitely be utilizing that. A massive thank you again, Kelly, for coming on today and giving us your fantastic insights every single time you come onto our webinars. And I think everybody is well and truly kind of coming away with invaluable top tips. So thank you so much for that again. I wanted to just quickly mention to everyone kind of tuning in today in terms of some next steps to really follow up on and get even more of the kind of great tips that Kelly has to offer. So you can obviously the aim of today is all around networking, so 100% connect with Kelly after this session through LinkedIn. I don't have the link to hand at the moment, but we'll pop it into the email where we'll follow up to you guys after this session. But she's not hard to find on there, so just pop Kelly Hoey into the search and you'll definitely come across her account, and definitely do give her a connection. Also, as she mentioned, she's got a fantastic academy, Bright Network Academy module, all around how to perfect your LinkedIn profile. So I know there were a few questions on, oh, is it a disadvantage if I'm not active on LinkedIn, or what if I haven't got LinkedIn yet? Well, this is your perfect opportunity to go away after this session and set one up before your experience even starts, so you're ready to really start kicking off the experiences with the right foot. And then finally, something that I did the other day actually was tune into a couple of your podcast episodes, and I found them so fantastic to listen into, even just kind of as you're working, to the having it on in the background and just tuning in. I think the one I listened to was around ghosting in the world of work, and I absolutely loved it. So definitely do tune in. I think they're about 10 to 15 minutes an episode, so really great to listen to on a quick walk to a shops or whatever it is you're doing this evening. So I can't recommend that enough. And finally, before I wrap up, just a massive thank you to everyone who's tuned in today. Thank you so much for coming along, and we hope it's been insightful. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we will see you at the experiences. So thanks so much, everyone.